Okay. This game looked like it was headed to overtime. I was all set for overtime. I was all set for what could have been a long overtime. This game didn't look like we were going to get a resolution for a while. This felt like an Islanders game. It started off like an Islanders game. The whole way through, this felt like the kind of game that the New York Islanders would have wanted in Game One. And coming out of this game, I'm not sure what to say other than the Islanders kind of have to keep playing like this. And for Tampa, okay, so first off, there's no Stamkos, and by the end of the night, they had 9 forwards. So they started off with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen, which has been the way they've played since the Boston series. And so why change something that's working? So John Cooper keeps the lineup the same in terms of 11 forwards, 7 defensemen, but early, Islanders score. It's Matt Martin from Nicoletti at 124. And it was the first shot, and it was one of those ones that Massey had no idea where the puck was. I believe it was Bogosian bumped into him, so he'd already been bumped into. He thought the puck was behind him. It's out in front. Martin gets it into the net. No chance for Vasilevsky. No thanks to his own defenseman. And it's 1-0 early. And Ladd then got a good chance. It's his first playoff game so far, and he's played, I think, they said it was something like 5 or 6 games in hundreds of days. We're into this ridiculous amount of time in between games for some of these guys. So Ladd played his first game. I thought he looked okay, although he is on the ice for what proves to be the game winner for Tampa. So if you're an Islanders fan, I'll let you describe in the comment section how you felt about Ladd's game. Goudreau got a break at 5 minutes. That was stopped. Killorn had a penalty, and it was 5 minutes for boarding Nelson. Brock Nelson had a bad night. This was not the only boarding that he took either. There was also a missed call in the second period. And I'm not sure how they missed that. I'm not saying that would have been a 5 in a game as well, but it's at least a penalty. So Nelson had a rough game. Hopefully he's okay, because with the amount of times his head hit the boards, I'd be surprised if there wasn't at least some reason to fear a concussion coming out of tonight's game. And the review confirmed that it was 5 in a game. So Alex Killorn is out. You're down to 10 forwards if you're the Tampa Bay Lightning. Good pressure early on for the power play. As I said, Tampa now down to 10 forwards. 5 shots during that 5-minute power play, but the Bolts held. And that 5-minute power play was really, really important. The Islanders are up 1-0. They're down 1-0. And so if they could have scored, say, 2 on that 5-minute major, the game's done. The Islanders aren't going to allow 3 goals. Not the stingy defensive team that we saw tonight, but they could not get a goal during that 5-minute major. So Pulick then takes a penalty. The Bolts get a power play. The shots were 11-3 at that point for the New York Islanders. Yeah, this was an Islanders game. Over 10 minutes without a shot by Tampa Bay. Again, these really long periods of time that we're seeing teams go without a single shot. And then it's late. It's Hedman scoring from Goudreau at 18:25, and that was right after the Islanders were called for icing, and it was a call they didn't like. They felt that Shattenkirk could have touched it. They felt that it was one of those ones where, and I've talked about this before, where the defense is kind of sort of making an effort to get back, but not really. So that ties things up with 1:35 left, while Barry Trotz looked unimpressed, and I'm sure Islander fans weren't impressed either. The shots were still heavily favoring the Islanders. So this was one of those, okay, boys, it's tied, but we're playing well, so we have to keep doing what we're doing. There was a scrum at the horn, and Point got hurt that led to the scrum. Point would come back in the second period, but he wasn't right, and so he would exit during the second period. And you have to think that it started with the hit he took at the end of this period. Both teams guilty of crossing the line tonight. Both teams guilty of throwing hits late. There were interferences. I was watching in the third period the amount of times that a team was guilty of what I thought were interference calls or high sticks, boarding, stuff that just wasn't getting called. I was honestly really surprised in the third period. Now I know, again, if you're going to look at that Nelson hit in the second period, you're going to say, well, that one should have been called. Right, and then there was a bunch of stuff in the third, and I thought both teams were crossing that line, and this is one of those, well, referees are just letting them play. It kind of drives me nuts at times, because this is something that, if you're letting them play, it does lead to lower scoring games. It does mean that you're cutting off the talent on the team, because usually it's the talented players taking the brunt of this. Braden Point for Tampa, out of the game. Brock Nelson taking multiple shots. Eventually, he would start fighting back because he'd had enough. So we go to the second period. Pelech gets a tripping call. The Bolts get the early power play. Varlamov saved the one shot that Tampa Bay had late in that power play. And then Schenn had a fight with Martin. And I don't know what's going on with Martin and Luke Schenn, but it was going on all night. And I'm not sure what started it, but it wasn't over after the fight. They showed highlights of how when these guys came out of the box, they were still going at each other, and it would continue throughout. Dangerous chance then for point 5 minutes in, and he misfired. And this is right around where he ends up making his exit. He didn't look right coming back after that play, and he would leave the game. So hopefully Point's okay, but if Point was 100% okay, he would have stayed in the game. So we'll see what happens in Game 3, and how many big-name injuries can Tampa manage to hold up and still make it into the next round and maybe win themselves a cup. So the Islanders were without a shot 7 minutes into the period. Yep. It's long times without a shot for both teams. The shots tonight were pretty low, which again favors the Islanders. Gord then takes a penalty. The Islanders get to a power play. Ladd had a chance that was stopped during that. The shots were 5-4 for the Islanders halfway through. And this is right around where Point is still in Tampa Bay's locker room. He's not coming back tonight. Maroon and Martin then at offsetting penalties, 4-on-4. So Maroon was getting into it a bit tonight too. Martin continues to be a focal point. And then Pulock had a break during the 4-on-4 that was stopped by Vasilevsky. Nice play by Ryan Pulock, really. And great save by Vasilevsky. Varlamov then denied Maroon, who was bumped into the goalie after that. So goalie bumps are becoming a thing in this series. Again, I don't know. This was a pretty rough game. This was a rough game. Low scoring, but a lot of hits. And again, just stuff that I kept thinking, well, they should have called something there. They didn't call anything there. Because again, when you're not calling these things, you're telling the players you're good, which means they can just keep pushing it. And they will. They'll say, all right, so that's allowed, so we can keep doing that. And then it gets pushed further and further. Beauvillier, Nelson, then they had a 2-on-1 that was broken up. Few shots, very physical second period. A lot of hits thrown in that second period. The Islanders' style of game was going on. Vasilevsky then stopped a Clutterbuck chance in the last minute. And then Schenn and Martin got together again after the second period horn. So this is these two guys just not getting along. And Luke Schenn, there was no hesitation from Coach Cooper about having Schenn on the ice at the same time as Martin. Keep in mind Tampa Bay has the last change. So they're the ones that would be calling the shots about whether or not Schenn's going to be on the ice with them. So we go to the third period, still tied at 1. Early, Mayfield takes a penalty. The Tampa Bay Lightning get a power play. Point, of course, not on the power play. Killorn not on the power play. They are down to 9 forwards for the rest of the game. And very few chances early in the third. That power play fizzled out. You lose Point and Killorn off your power play. That's going to happen. McDonough then takes a penalty. The Islanders get what is officially their third power play, but of course one of those is a 5-minute power play. Vasilevsky made a save off the top of his head. Kind of nice. It reminded me of Leonard a couple series back. Remember all that long time ago? It feels like it was years ago now. 38 seconds then of 5-on-3 as Paquette takes a penalty. The Islanders call a timeout. And I'm sure the wording of that timeout was, all right, so we need to get a goal here 5-on-3 because it's a 1-1 tie. We're getting a majority of the shots. We can win this. Tampa Bay killed it off, allowed 3 shots during what was both the 5-on-3 and then the 5-on-4 that followed. Really, really solid penalty kill. Some smart plays by Chernak, by Hedman really stood out. And they played the diamond really well. And then, after that when it was 5-on-4, their sticks were always in the middle of the lane. Really, the Islanders couldn't get anything set up. It did feel like overtime already when we were at about 6 minutes left in the third period, and it was obvious that the next goal was going to win this. Lots of hitting though, both teams being very aggressive. Again, it felt like there were some hits that were across the line. There were at least 3 hits in that last 5 minutes where a guy would just blast somebody into the boards, and neither of them were near the puck. I was like, okay, so that's interfering. Nope, could have been charging, boarding. Apparently, those are not a big deal anymore. when the puck isn't there, somebody should get a penalty, but not tonight. Um, and again, there are people who are going to love that the whistles are put away. I'm just saying that it means that you're going to have a lot of things that people get mad about because it's not being called. And it starts with that. It starts with that physical play that they're saying, oh, we'll let the boys play. And then some of the hooking, slashing gets, allowed as well. Last minute, Gord had a chance that was stopped. Palat missed one wide. And they just gave way too many prime chances to Tampa Bay in the last minute. You can't do this. Kucherov gets the goal with 8.8 seconds left from McDonough. You can't leave Kucherov wide open in front of the net like that. I'm not sure what happened to the Islanders' defense in that last 30 seconds, but they can't afford that. This is one of those things with Tampa. They held Tampa down for 59 minutes. And then in the last minute, Tampa, they decided, all right, we got it, and Kucherov gets it, and they win. Tampa Bay goes up 2-0. They did it without Point. They did it without Killorn. And they also haven't had Stamkos for the entire playoffs. So it's impressive what Tampa's been able to do. And again, we'll see whether or not Killorn gets suspended for that hit. I'm sure the NHL will look at it. I have no idea. We'll see if Point's able to play in Game 3. We'll see if Nelson's okay after this one. He got slammed to that board so many times. 3 stars, Vasilevsky, Kucherov, and Hedman. And I can't argue that. Although I might have had Martin in the top 3. I don't know. I can't push out Hedman, and Kucherov gets the game winner, and Vasilevsky was fantastic. So I don't know. The Islanders played a pretty good game, but in the end they come up short with 8 seconds left. And you could see Varlamov was just not happy about it. And I'm not sure if he wasn't happy because he wasn't able to make the save, or if he wasn't happy because 8 seconds, seriously. Or maybe his defense in front of him that just... You can't afford to take a moment against the Tampa Bay Lightning, or it is in your net. The shots in this one, 13-4 Islanders in the first, 7-6 Islanders in the second. That was an Islanders period in that second. And then 11-8 in the third for the Tampa Bay Lightning, including a couple of those shots in the last minute that defined the game. Final shots, 28-21 in favor of the Islanders. The hits were also in favor of the Islanders, 52-44. Like I said, this was an Islanders-style hockey game. They need to play this style again in a couple of nights and hope for a win. They were 0-4 on the power play. That's what Barry Trotz needs to focus on tomorrow. And the Tampa Bay Lightning were 0-3. Varlamov saves 19 out of 21. Vasilevsky saves 27 out of 28. He's a really good goaltender. I don't know how many times I have to say it, but Vasilevsky has continually in these playoffs shown he's a big game goaltender. He's a very good goaltender. And right now the Tampa Bay Lightning are 6 wins away from a potential Stanley Cup. We'll see what they can do in Game 3. Let me know what you thought of Game 2 tonight. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Weigh in on the Killorn hit. Weigh in on the other boarding calls that were missed. And just the general let the boys play that seemed to be taking place in the third period for the most part. Let me know your thoughts. And hey, thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.